So let's go through the process of creating a Longline Annual Catch Estimates, which is exactly the same as the Persane one. The process is the same. By the way, it would be good if you would have seen the video about Persane first before having a look at this one. So what we'll do here, we'll create a new ACE for FSM, and it will be this time for 2023 and gear Longline. So I'm just saving that, and then I'm straight into the screen where I'm going to have to do some stuff. So once again, in the instruction tab, you've got instructions for each of these tabs. Feel free to go through this if you've never read it, because it would give you some good information. And so you have the choice to either click on the tabs like this, or go to the tab. So if you need to go to the National Fleet or Missing Logsheet, you can go to the tab and it will drive you straight. Then once you're in each of the tabs, you also have the possibility to go previous tab, next, whatever you want. So just for an easy navigation. So we'll start with National Fleet. Here again, just like in Persane, you want to list here all the vessels that have been composing your national fleet for the year that we study, which is at the time of this video 2023. And so what you want to do here is to get the data from TUFMAN2, and this will give you a list of vessels that have been that supposedly operating as your national fleet in 2023. So if for any reason this list is not correct, feel free to get back to us and we'll modify. So if a vessel shouldn't be in this list because it wasn't part of your national fleet, just tell us which vessel, and we'll make sure it's not appearing anymore in your national fleet list. Sorry about that. And on the other hand, if you're missing a vessel, if one of the vessels of your national fleet is not appearing here, we need to do a fix in our vessel tables in order to include. So feel free to get back to us. And at any time also you can put some comments here. This is possible. Once you've done this and once you've ensured that this list is good for 2023, you can go to the next tab, which is Missing Logsheet. So here in this tab, you will be listing all the trips which have been detected through VMS information and for which we don't have any information within TUFMAN2. So basically, we've detected that a trip has happened for a specific vessel, but we haven't got this trip recorded into TUFMAN2. So what we want to get here is these trips. And here we realize that all these vessels have been detected to fish from the 28th of February, for example, this one, to the 3rd of April. So they've been apparently fishing, according to VMS, they've been fishing almost 18 days. And for this specific vessel, we don't have the log sheet. So your goal here will be to chase the data if you don't have the log sheet. So go back to the companies and ask them, okay, this trip has been made. We don't have the log sheet. Can you give us the log sheet? It might be that if you've got a bit of backlog, you have the log sheet, but it's not been entered. So the goal will be to enter it as soon as possible. And this ideally should be done before TDW. And if you've got too much backlog and too much to enter and not enough staff to do that, we can always help at OFP. So just contact us through Slack, and we'll give you instructions in order for us to help you. You will have to send us the scans of these trips, and we can enter them on your behalf. Next tab is the vessel composition. So you will indicate here what is your national fleet composed of by size class. So you've got maybe a number of vessels which are in between 51 and 200 tonnage and so on. So you get the data and it's all automatically inserted in here. That's all you have to do for this tab. So next you go to the log sheet tab. And so again, here you've got two grids. You have to understand that the first grid is your working grid, where you can do whatever you want. And once you are happy about the results, and to get the results, you just get the data. So we'll do this now. So here is the data. Depending on the moment of the day and how busy the server is, it might be longer for some of you and shorter as well. It could be instant results. So you've got, as you can see, a first grid with your working environment. You can do whatever you want, but once you're happy with the results, you just go to the next grid, which are the reported data grid. So what you want to do, you want to copy the results from the first grid to the second grid. Are you sure you want to copy this data? Yes. And then it tells you that both grids are identical now, and this is the final results for Logsheet. That's the results that are going to be used in your in the calculation of your ACEs. Of course, you can play. You can still do some stuff in this first grid. Like for example, if you're interested querying your previous year. So for example, instead of 2023, you want to query just for your information. You want to query 2022. It will get 2022 data, and you can see whatever was calculated for this year. So this is the result for 2022. So as you can see here, you've got in orange all the fields that are different from one grid to the other. And this is, of course, this is normal because this is 2022 data and this is 2023. If I go back to 2023 data and get the data, yes, it will detect that all the results are exactly the same and tell you, okay, both grids are identical, so it's 2023 data in this grid. So this is it for the Logsheet tab. The next tab is Observer. So in the same way that we saw for Logsheet, there's basically two grids. This one has already been filled, but what you want to do here in the working, there's a working grid and there's a final, let's say a final grid. What you want to do here is to get data. So I'm getting the data again. And so the data is already filled in the grid. And once you're happy with this, you just copy the result into the final grid, the one that you're happy to be the final one for your observer calculations here. Once you have done this, you're done with observer data. And you can go to the next tab, which is summaries. So in here, you will be calculating all the total trips from VMS and from Observer, the Observer trip and day coverage and the logbook coverage. And for this, again, this is a single grid here. You will get the data from the button. Again, if it takes a long time, but it shouldn't, you can just go somewhere else, do some other work, and then come back on this tab and refresh. The refresh being these arrows. Don't click on this again because it would run the process again from scratch. So here it is. We have all these summary information, including the coverages. So we can go to the next tab, which is calculation methods. So this is the calculation method section, which is very important because this is exactly where you will decide how you want to calculate your annual catch estimates. So there's a number of calculation methods that we'll go through after that, but what I want to show you here first is that there's two grids here once again, but the first one being the retained catch and the second one being the discarded catch. So basically in these grids, you've got a summary of all of the information that you've entered into previous tabs. And you can see that, let's focus on the retained catch grid. You can see that all the species are ordered by species category from tuna, billfish to shark, and then by species code. And for each species, you would have several columns which correspond to calculation methods. And these calculations methods are different, and we'll see once again how they are different. But the point to know here is that one specific calculation method is recommended for you. And for example, here in the retained catch for longline, that's method number 3, which is preferred. And we'll see later that it's based on the Logsheet data. because we just consider that all of these species for retained catch are properly reported usually on the log sheet. That's why we've selected as a default method number 3. But for if any reason you want to change the method, you think that you have a good observer coverage, so you want to select method number 2, then it will be method number 2, which is selected for calculating the ACEs. And as you can see, this is automatically reported into the last column. So whatever is selected in green here is reported in the last column, which is your final estimates. So let's put it back to 3. And it's the same for discarded species. So you've got some specific methods that are recommended. Basically, usually it's method number 2 here for any of these discarded species, but noting that method number 2 is observer based, but for a low coverage of observer data for longline, when the coverage is under 20%, we just consider that using the observer is a little bit dangerous for sharks using the observer data, because it might be that we end up overestimating the number of sharks by using method number 2. So that's why usually we prefer method number 3 for all of these sharks, depending on your observer coverage, whether it's over 20% or lower than 20%. So once you've selected all the methods, and if you, for example, you select another method than one that is recommended, you might want to put a comment to explain us why you've done so. That will help us understand why you've changed the default recommended method of calculation. Okay, so once you've selected all of the methods you think are the truth, the good ones, this tab is finished, and we just have to go to the next tab, which is the catch estimates. So in this catch estimates screen, you have a summary of all the annual catch estimates that you've selected depending on the methods that you've selected just before. So basically for each of the species, you've got the retain annual catch estimate, the discard annual catch estimates, and both together in the last column. And that's it. You've basically finished your work on annual catch estimates. Feel free to put any comment if you've had some difficulties, or if you've had to change a few things because there's a specificities for your fishery or whatever comment you want to put here that might help us review your annual catch estimate will be welcome and useful. So once you've done all of that, you can click on validate for review, and this will send us a small email telling us, in this case, okay, FSM has validated their longline annual catch estimate, and they are ready for review from SPC. And therefore, we will receive this email. We will review your annual catch estimates. If we're happy with what you've done, we will close your annual catch estimate and validate them. And if there's few modification, we will reopen them, and you will know that they are reopened, and we will submit to you what we think is a better version, and it will be up to you to validate this again and until we're all happy about these annual catch estimates. And basically your work is done once you've done all of these steps. Few last things I would like to talk about before I close this tutorial. The first one being the calculation methods for longline. We've seen that we've described the method in the per seine tutorial. The method here for longline are not so much different, but there are only a couple of differences. So let's go through each of these very quickly, maybe the first ones. Method number 1 and 2 are the same as per seine. So basically you take whatever has been calculated in the observer grid, some average weights, and you raise this average weight to the total number of trips or the total number of days that have been calculated in summaries. So this is method number 1 and 2. Method number 3 is based on a log sheet. So what you've calculated here, the raise catch, will be used for this method number 3. Method number 4 is a little bit different. It uses both Logsheet and observer average weights that we raise to total trip. So what it does is to take what has been defined here as the discards number, and it multiplies this by the average weight per fish, which is calculated from all these average weights that we're having here, and raises all of that to the total number of trips. Okay, so it's taking the numbers from log sheets, multiplying by the average weight that's calculated from observer data, and raising to total trip. So this is method number 4, and it's only available for discards. It's only for discards. As you can see here in the retain, you've only got method 3 and 5. Method number 5 is simply the observer unraised retain estimate. And method number 6 is the observer unraised discard estimate. So as you can see here, we've got method number 1, 2, 3, 5 in the retain catch, and the next grid you will have 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. So this is the first thing I wanted to talk about. Next thing I would like to mention is about observer data. It might be, and this is valid for longline or purseine or polyline, it might be that for the year that we study, 2023 for this tutorial, you might not have a lot of observer data when you get the data for 2023. In this case, it is important that we get some average weights. So we just consider that from one year to the other, these average weights don't vary too much. So it's all possible to take the observer data from a year before or a few years before, potentially, if you don't have any data for the previous year. It's better to have something than have nothing in this grid. So what you would do here, if you didn't have any data for 2023, you would click on this small icon and you would test data for 1 year before. So you would get data from 1 year before. Do you want to generate? And it's always generating in the working environment here, which is not the final one. It's highlighting all these cells that are different. So in the case that you've got data for 2022, you can use this data for the calculation of your ACEs. So in this case, you would copy this data into the final grid, and you would be able to use all of these calculations here into the calculation of your ACEs. And that's all for this tutorial. Thank you for listening. Hopefully that will be helpful to help you doing your annual catch estimates for Longline.